petition of the elephants get to a sanctuary?
We're a local grassroots group. Our name is Friends of Philly Zoo Elephants, and we are totally volunteer. We don't even take donations. We're just local residents who learned about the situation of the elephants at the zoo, formed 4 years ago, and have been trying to get the elephants out of the zoo to a sanctuary. And we did have success with one elephant. One elephant died last June, and there's 2 elephants still here. So we continue to work to raise awareness and get these elephants to a better place. This petition is to City Council to halt the funding to the zoo until the zoo does the right thing for these elephants. Because the zoo gets millions of taxpayer support from the city alone. They get a water subsidy that's about $2.8 million. They get garbage service free. They rent this property for $1 from the city, which is, worth millions. And they also get $1 million and $5 million in capital funding support. So there's a lot of taxpayer money going into the zoo. So we think we should have a voice in what they're doing to the animals here.
I'm Jeff Hyson, Assistant Professor of History at St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, and I'm writing a cultural history of American zoos. The zoo was the first zoological society chartered in the United States in 1859. It's actually celebrating its 150th anniversary this year. So in that sense, it has the reputation of being the first, being at the forefront of American zoos. And in fact, for much of its history, it was, in terms of early innovations in exhibit design, in animal husbandry, in veterinary care, in research. That said, I think most zoo observers would agree that especially over the past 50 to 75 years, the zoo hasn't quite kept up that reputation, in part because it just doesn't have a lot of space. It's hemmed in by a major street on one side, by railroad tracks on the other. It hasn't been able to do the big naturalistic exhibits that some of its later, larger successors have been able to do. And it's also had the same challenges that many other zoos have had recently, which is that they have problems with their budget. So, although it's America's first zoo chronologically, I think most reasonable observers would say today that it's not at the very top of the ranks of American zoos in terms of its quality.
I've been at the Daily News since 1972, and for the past 4 years or so, I'm writing what's called a metro column, meaning it's about what goes on in the city. Over the past few years, yes, I've interviewed Vic Duan, who's the CEO of the zoo, plus other people on his staff, other executives there. They want to have elephants in zoos. Most especially, they want baby elephants in zoos. Any zoo wants babies. Babies draw crowds like mad. It doesn't matter what kind of baby animal it is, people flock to see them.
Elephants don't do well breeding in captivity. They are not a sustaining population. They're definitely losing more elephants than they are breeding, and that's a sign that they're not doing well in captivity. Well, one of the risks is for elephants the age of Callie and Bet is that it's very, very unlikely that they'll get pregnant at all if they haven't been bred by the age of 24. That's something that zoo industry data supports. If they do get pregnant for the first time over the age of 24, there's a 71% chance of the mother or the baby or both dying or suffering some life-threatening condition. So you're diverting millions of dollars to breed a handful in captivity when you could be spending a fraction of that and saving, herds of elephants. Elephants are dying at half their natural lifespan, and the #1 cause of death of elephants in zoos is foot and joint related problems from standing around. And that's something that elephants are not dying of in the wild.
Whether the treatment that animals are receiving meets expectations that the public may have, and whether that treatment is at the same level that, say, the feds or AZA expect, I think that's where the conflict comes in.
It's the zoo's denial that there is a problem with keeping elephants in captivity. They refuse to admit that there are problems associated with it, and so they could send the elephants to California tomorrow. I mean, it's already been offered. It's a free home, so it's just the zoo's refusal to acknowledge that elephants are suffering in captivity. They want to keep elephants in captivity and keep them on display, and no matter what the cost is to the elephant.
So my feeling is if the zoo sent them to a sanctuary they would be closing the door forever and never be able to get them back. So by sending them to ICC, they at least have the door open. Whether or not the door will ever mean that the elephants will walk through it again, that I don't know. But Vic Dewan is on record as saying he would like that to happen someday.
I think given their current budget and given their current space, I don't think elephants are the right choice for them. I think that it's going to be a real popular challenge because when people think of zoos, they think of elephants. So I do think, though, that it's the right thing to do, and it's probably the politically smart thing to do. It's perhaps also the economically smart thing to do. This battle over elephants forces both zoos and their critics to think much more carefully about which animals belong in zoos and why. Then maybe they can have a real dialogue. Maybe they can have a dialogue that actually includes the general public in a less political, more open way. And maybe that's going to lead to better places for the animals and a better experience for the visitors too.
Big